Welcome to another episode of RELICS Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting, relic, and treasure hunting. You can also call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have. RELICS Radio is also now syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. You're listening to RELICS Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are listening to another episode of RELICS Radio. I am your host, Digging with Seven, coming to you out of Southern Kentucky. Want to welcome all of the live listeners that are on Spreaker.com tonight, and I see the chat filling up there. Also want to welcome all of our syndicated listeners that are joining the show through the Cutting Edge Radio Network. Welcome to you. And we know that not everybody can catch the show live. Some of you have to catch the archive show. You may do that on Spreaker, or you may do that on Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Looney Tunes, wherever on the internet. In fact, the demographics came out today, or updated earlier today, and I see that we've got new listeners and this blew me away, new listeners out of Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, France, Sweden, New Zealand, Spain, Panama, Barbados, and Bug Tussle, Kentucky. So welcome to all of you folks that are here as well. And I told Paul Klippa, I did this last week, and I'll do it again this week. I told him that I would plug their first annual Middle Tennessee Digging Bash. That's going to be Saturday, May the 9th, and it's going to be in Shelbyville, Tennessee. If you want to sign up for that, go to the RELICS Radio Facebook group page, and Tim Henderson has put a PDF in there under the advertisement for this dig, and you can print that off and fill it out and send it in. You can either do that, or you can call Paul Klippa at 931-691-7598. So I told him that I would plug that hunt, and so I did that. Really, really excited about tonight's show. I'm that way on every show, but I'm especially excited tonight because I've got two very special guests from my home state of Texas. I've got the Booty Hunters, Kerry Snell and Stephanie Davenport. Welcome to the show, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited.
I'm excited.
I love the bumper music, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. You play the same bumper music all the time, and you know right when to come in. There's that crash cymbal that hits there, and you're just timed. I don't think that I could have another intro song there. I'd just be all messed up, getting into the show. And
I like it though. That's one of our problems or our arguments, is that we argue over the music because the music is a big part of our show.
Yeah.
So it takes us a month just to argue and finish. I have to win, of course, but finish winning my argument.
Yeah. And disclaimer, whenever I said the Booty Hunters, they're after that pirate booties, what these guys are after out in
right.
Texas. Yeah. And by way of introduction, Kerry, I guess I'll start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into metal detecting?
Well, Kerry Snell. Yeah. Well, I live out here in Texas, and what got me into metal detecting was Stephanie, actually. But I had an interest in all things old since I was a child, and I was born in Arizona, and my dad was a pretty prolific antique dealer out there, and And back in the 70s and 80s, he would take us out to those old ghost towns that were still existing when I was a kid. And probably some of your listeners probably know this one, but there was an old place called the Silver King, and it was out in Superior, Arizona. And in the 70s and the early 80s, that place was still standing. So as a kid, I can honestly say I got to walk through what looks like an Old West ghost town.
Wow.
And had the Paymaster Shack at the end of it. And, excuse me for a second. Had the old Paymaster Shack at the end of this, it was just one straight road with all the buildings on the side. And make a big impression as a little kid. They still had the little bitty school, and they had caved in, and it looked like the one that they reproduced on that old TV show with Laura Ingalls in it, that little schoolhouse that they used to...
Oh, yeah.
Like Little House on the Prairie?
Yeah, Little House on the Prairie. Yeah.
Yeah, that old school looked like that school, but it was collapsed in, so I got to see that as a kid. And so we go out to these old ghost towns, and my dad would dig and look for stuff where they threw all their old stuff out. And I remember finding lots of old military buttons as a kid and just all kinds of stuff. And so it was always in the back of my head. When I got older, I'm like, you know what? That's ingrained in me, and I really like to go to those places. So guess what? We're doing it. So we're going over.
Now
the
wait,
top with
don't forget.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't forget to tell them what's left from your grandfather and your dad at the Silver King.
Well, yeah, we could get into that too. Well, my grandpa. Well, as a kid, you hear all the stories. You know, my grandpa was an old treasure hunter. And whenever he was in World War II, and as a kid I hear this story, but in the 60s, my grandpa and my dad, they went out to the Superstition Mountains, which was pretty close to the Silver King. It's all in the same area.
Right.
And one of the main roads that it's not a road, I guess it's a trail. So one of the trails you walk into, now I think it's a park now, but back then, you could go into the Superstition Mountains, and this trail, one of the main trails they have now, is made because they drug all the compressors back there with mules, and they, just wore a path out to this cave that they were digging for gold in. So, and if you go out there today, if you look up on the swirl cactuses, you'll see the cables just hanging out of the trees.
Yeah.
So later on, when I got older, I'm a teenager, and my dad, hey, let me show you where we were digging when I was your age with my dad. And he's pointing out these cables hanging out of the trees. He goes, we put all those cables in those trees, and we drug all these compressors back there with mules, and they were looking for treasure back there. So as a kid, you get all that stuff instilled in you, and then later on, I'm like, I want to do that.
That's right.
So that's how you get into metal detecting. You just start in the dirt, right?
Yeah, just get your hands in the dirt and always excited about what comes out. Yeah. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah.
It's always something fun, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's a bottle cap or something. But now Kerry and I got a divorce about 4 years ago. So Kerry and I knew each other in high school, and we ended up hooking up, and we have been running ever since. So it's actually been fun. So treasure hunting in my family is like a long list, but I'm going to shorten it down for you. But when I was a kid, of course you hear all those treasure hunting stories, and it was like instilled in me. My parents were really into it, and we'd always go to like Lake Powell, where you have all the Indian ruins and stuff. And so Mom actually had a cousin that worked with Mel Fisher for a while, helping recover the relics from the Etosha.
Right.
So that was very cool at that, and he was really young. So later on, when he aged, he worked with the Mexican government and did shipwrecks, recovered their shipwrecks off the coast. So he was all into that, got Mom and Dad interested, and of course we were hearing all his stories. And then what brought Kerry and I kind of full circle is back in the 1930s, Maximilian was president of El Salvador, and he somehow had acquired an old treasure map of a Spanish fort here in Texas. and he had 3 copies made. And he became friends with my great uncle, and his family was granted 10,000 acres here in Texas. And Dad said that it had the fault line, the Volcanus fault on it, so that was a huge amount of property. 10,000 acres, I think already.
Yeah.
And he is out gathering cattle when a storm rolls up. And so he said he found some big cedar trees and huge rock. So he went for the rock to block him and his horse. So as he got right in there, he was able to squeeze through the opening opened up. And he found what was a conquistador in his full suit. His horse had died. I know. His horse had died beside him. And I think he said that it was evident that he had gotten in a fight with Indians. So I'm assuming he found arrowheads or arrows in him. But after he left, he didn't take anything with him. He thought he'd go back and bring his brother back, and they couldn't find it after that.
Oh, my goodness.
So it is still, Mom and Dad always listen, it is still there somewhere in a small little cave, still sitting there for somebody to find. So anyway, so we had inherited that map, and so I asked Kerry. Kerry had worked for the sheriff's department for like 23 years, and we were trying to find something to do that would be cool at nighttime. So I said, what do you think about learning how to metal detect or picking it back up? And we'll get really good at it, and we'll go see what we can find on this map.
Yeah.
And he was like, heck yes, I want to do that. And so we started studying this map, and it's kind of in Spanish, and we looked online, and they did not have a map that the way they rebuilt this Spanish mission was slightly off from our map. So anyways, it was really cool, and we were really excited, and there was a river. So if you know anything about metal detecting, if you're in the river and find stuff, I don't know how many feet it is up on the bank, but you're allowed to keep what you find in the river.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, once we find something in the river, it's ours. I'm going, and I went full steam ahead. I didn't even ask Mom for the map. So my butt got in a bunch of trouble when she found out when Dad had the lawyer call, and it's a family attorney that we have, and he was like, Stephanie, what are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you going? Okay, do not do anything that I have to bail you out of jail for. And of course, Kerry's telling me the whole time, I know what prison's like, Stephanie. I'm not going on anybody's property. I'm like, come on. Yeah. So we were just kind of getting to know one another and really laughing about it. But then we couldn't. We ended up doing a show on it, which is our very first show. It's a treasure seeking in the Spanish fort.
Yep.
And I did a lot of history. And then when we got to the places, the rivers had actually changed, or the water flow had actually changed some of the ins and outs of where the map had shown. So we had to come back here, and it was like, how many, like 4-hour drive, Kerry, 6-hour drive to get there?
Yeah, we spent lots of days,
so
lots
we came
of hours
back home
studying and looking.
Yeah, we came back home and restudied the map, and then I had to say, okay, over time, here's where the flow was. This creek right here was no longer a creek. So anyways, once we found out the new barriers and we went back, there was huge holes. So somebody else had come in with like dozers, and so we don't know. We do know that some of the things on the map were eventually found. Mom said that like a huge crucifix was actually found. Some other things where the creek was washed it out in the water,
right? And
it was on the map. So we do know that the map was real. Another cool thing that we found is on the wall of the Spanish fort. Who did it say, James? Was it Bowie?
Oh,
James Bowie.
Yeah, Jim Bowie.
Okay, so James Bowie was a huge Jim Bowie,
yeah,
was a huge treasure seeker, And we ended up accidentally following his footsteps. So he had to have had the same map that we had, because he had gotten into a tiff with the Indians, and they didn't know what he was doing there. Well, you know what? We know what he was doing there. He was looking for the treasure.
Yeah, the Maximilian
map. Because we had the same. There you go. So
yeah,
we had the same one.
It was pretty interesting, because I do remember going out there several times, and you don't find anything, and then you come back and you research, and then you go back out, and you're spending your time, you're spending your money, and all this effort in the hot Texas heat, and then nothing happens. But then you go back home, you regroup, rethink, and then one day Stephanie's over there studying the satellite maps, and she says, "You know what? I was wrong. This is what it's supposed to look like right here." And she showed me, and I was like, "You know what? You ought to be a cartographer, because that's impressive."
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
So,
you know what? Let's pack up the truck and go back out.
We did end up finding, which was my favorite piece, and not with a metal detector either. It was with our eyes. But the Franciscan monks that were at this fort ended up bringing these huge vats of olive with them.
Yeah.
And it was a piece of olive jar, and it actually had carving on there. And I knew that it was old. I didn't know what it was from. So it's actually a piece that is equal to what they have in the museums there, close to where the fort was. So that was really cool, a really cool find that you can actually see on that show.
Yeah.
So,
we need to...
But anyways, we just hit it and kept going.
Sounds like it, yeah. We need to take a commercial break, and we'll pick it back up right after this. I'm excited to announce that Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors has rejoined RELICS Radio as a sponsor. As a multi-line dealer, Tim carries several brands of detectors and accessories, and he's ready to serve all of your metal detecting needs. I'll give you his contact info in a minute. So why did RELICS Radio go back to Tim Henderson as our dealer sponsor? 3 very important reasons. First, I often hunt with Tim, so I know firsthand that he uses what he sells, and he prides himself with great customer service and support. Second, Tim goes the extra mile in helping the new detectorist determine exactly what they need to get started. He will not try and sell you some high-priced product if that's not what you need. And at the same time, Tim can serve the seasoned detectorist with their upgrades or new product questions. And finally, Tim won't leave you hanging after the sale. He's just a phone call away for any questions or specialized training needs. So, you can call Tim directly at 615-948-4611, or you can email him at tjhenderson@comcast.net. And I see that my buddy Tim Henderson is in the chat. Welcome, Tim. And I want to encourage you that if you've got any metal detecting needs, if you want a new machine, or if you need some accessories to go with you, there's another coil, a pin pointer, whatever you need, give Tim a call and he'll give you the best deal that he can. Hey, we've got Kerry Snell and we got Stephanie Davenport of the Booty Hunters on the show tonight. And Stephanie, did you finish your story, or you need a little bit more time?
Well, no, that's fine. It's just that's what started. Well, you know what? There was one more thing. So as Kerry and I were wrapping it up, and it was nighttime, and we took it to the extreme where we had night goggles and everything that we were going to dig all night long if we had to. All weekend long, I am going to find that treasure, and I've had it in my heart for since I was a kid.
You're not the only one, though. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have had that in their heart. Is the Maximilian maps.
So it's nighttime, and I start crying, and Kerry was like, of course he didn't know I was crying. When he got over to me and had the flashlight, and then he saw the tears rolling down my eyes, he was like, "What are you crying for?" So I sat down on the cooler and I said, "I'm so sorry that I got you into this, and I really I really felt like God was like, I'm going to give you some treasure, Stephanie. Here you go. And I thought that it was going to be that easy. Yeah. And I couldn't quit crying. And he looked at me, got on his knees. He looked at me and he said, honey, I love you. I don't want treasure. You are my treasure. And I thought,
oh, that's
you're
sweet.
The man right here. You're the man.
Oh, yeah. Kerry, you may have been born at night, but you wasn't born last night, was it? That was an open door right there. That's a softball.
It was so sweet.
Yeah, that's a slow pitch.
She drives a hard bargain. And when it was hot, we'd already been out there all those times. And we get in our kayak when we had finally pinned this stuff down. So we're in our kayak going down the river. And every spot that she had pinpointed as this is where it should be. Well, everywhere we went was 3 different holes that had already been dug. So obviously someone had already been there with a big tractor. So we have to reorient ourselves. We're already there. So we go to a different spot that's miles and miles and miles away. And I'm like, all right, so
like 18
this is on
miles.
the side of the highway, like 18 miles away. So we're on the side of the highway, and there's a video this is on the video, but I don't think we're saying where we're at, but we're 18 miles away from that spot, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's on the side of the highway. We can't go on private property, but it is the property right on the road. And so we metal detected over there. We did find old ox cart parts, and I'm like, okay, so there was wagons coming through here at some point, and ox cart stuff is pretty old. And then I walk up the hill a ways.
I think it was when we were driving away, Kerry.
Well, somehow I end up on the hill, and this is out in the middle of Nowheresville, and then there's one of those, there's a historic site, one of those historic badges on the side of the road that says Jim Bowie was here in 1830, and he fought the Indians.
Right.
And they
held off the Indians.
Yeah, all night long, and they killed some Indians, and I'm like, well, you know what? We didn't even know that was there, but yet, we found our way there.
So we found it.
Map. So there is some.
No.
Somebody else had that map a long time ago, and we were just following someone else's footsteps. So there you go.
Yeah,
we kind of ended the story there with that map, anyway.
Well, it's all about the adventure is what it is. One thing that really impressed me whenever I was introduced to you guys and started watching your videos and everything is the quality of your editing. Tell me about that. Your philosophy of editing, I guess, is what I'm driving at.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, you know what?
Thank you very much.
When we first...
Let me tell her this.
Hold on, Kerry. Let me go. Hold on.
Okay.
So when we started studying...
Yeah.
I'm going first. When we started studying...
Hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. Because this reminds me of that Capital One commercial where that lady is that woman is in there and she's talking and she's talking and she's talking, and then they say, they're all waiting for her to hush, and then she says, okay, I'm done, and like lops her lips, and then in a minute she says, oh, one more thing, what's in your wallet? That's the way Stephanie is.
That's about right.
Okay, so
I'm blonde too.
Okay, so well, you've got the floor.
At least I can laugh at myself. No, we started studying, and we started with Nugget Noggin, and I really bonded with that cute little boy, and it was back before, probably when he only had 500 people, I think 500 subscribers, and I was like, Kerry, I like this kid. I mean, I really like watching him. So we just studied and watched him and watched other videos, and kind of trying to learn their little niche. And so as I was watching, not specifically Nuggets, but everybody, I would watch it and think, you know what? I see what they're holding up here, but I want to see, like, what did it look like before it was squished and rusted?
Right.
So it bothered me that I couldn't identify. Guys might be able to, but I couldn't identify with what I was seeing. And then I wanted to know what it was used for some of the time.
Right.
So, Kerry, you want to pick up from here, or do you want me to keep going?
Well,
I can definitely keep talking.
Well, this is how the editing gets. The format that we have at the minute, it's an ever-evolving thing, and the format is all her idea. And so here I am. I was already making car videos and filming and stuff like that, and I just kind of converted over to metal detecting with her. And so I'm over there editing some shows that we have done, and you spend like 6 hours of editing time, and then she would come in and OCD on it. That's what I say. And she's like, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change that, and I'm going to change this. And I'm like, hold on. I just spent 6 hours on this, and you're taking me back to 1 hour. So you do that several times, and I'm like, oh, my, I don't know. Okay, you know what? Let me show you how to do it. So I sat her down, and we have 2 editing stations. And so I show her how to start editing, and then I come back and I look at it, and I said, you know what? That's better than what I was doing. You know what? You're doing a great job. And so everything that you see, all this editing and her skills that she used with her dad, and what was that you were doing?
Well, Dad had they had a metal building company, and he manufactured Sheffield barbed wire. And so when I was growing up working for Dad, I kind of worked downstairs at the counter with the guys. And then he moved me upstairs, and I learned desktop publishing so I could do some of the magazines and stuff.
Right.
So that kind of was the background. Yeah.
So she took that knowledge and incorporated it.
Well,
yeah, she incorporated it into her editing process. And so the format you see, all the editing, all of it's hers. She does all of that. So I just wanted it to be fun. I like fun music, and I don't want to sit around and have to watch people walking to the hole. And I just thought I want to make it more like they feel like they've gone somewhere and it was fun. So you know what's funny is that we'll have people tell us they watch all these shows, and they're like, I watch the shows and I love to watch these metal detecting shows, but not one of them has made me want to pick up my metal detector that I've had in my closet and go do it. And y'all's show has done that. So I thought that's a huge compliment.
It is. And I don't know, there's just something, and I'm going to challenge everybody in the chat, everybody that's listening, is to go to the Booty Hunters on YouTube and watch their videos and subscribe to them and help them out with that. You are going to be pleasantly surprised, because you live in a part of the country, and me and Kerry talked about this the other day a little bit. You live in a part of the country that doesn't have the amount of history. Now, I know that there's history there, and there's old history there, but it's very spotty to find really, really old stuff. So you're limited on what you can find, and so your appeal has to be the way you present what you find. Am I wrong?
Thank you. No, you're exactly
definitely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go, we're dealing with like 300 acres, and you have to look at these maps, and you have to say, okay, where's a tree opening or a line that birds would have sit on and pooped and created an old fence line. So we have to look at all of those maps, and then we have to narrow down, because you can't do 300 acres really quick. So it is hard. And it makes me jealous when these people are walking in those woods up north, and they're just like, oh, looky here. And I'm like, oh,
I know.
Gosh, it takes us weeks to find that.
I know it. And you just look and especially up in New England, the amount of history that they have that's just everywhere. And they will leave us at
makes us salivate.
Yeah, they will leave us at and come back to it, because they've got so many where we're just scratching, just trying to survive, just to have something. But you guys, really do a great job of editing. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I'm getting better. Don't be too hard on us.
It takes us about.
It takes you what?
4 months to put a show together.
Oh.
So in between your everyday life,
once we finish arguing,
and then trying to get trying to get ahead of yourself. So we have to go film, and then I take on my station and I put the stuff that's going to be edited on my computer and get it ready for her. And then while she's trying to finish the show. And so between trying to find new places and new contacts and network our own show, then we also are trying to finish the show.
Yeah.
So,
hey, you asked us how we get some of the shows, and it really started with a farmer, and we went to the farmer's place and we found really pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And he was so impressed that he told his neighbor farmer, all those farmers kind of know each other. And so his neighbor was like, you know what, we got an old farmstead over here. Come on over and see what you can find.
Yeah.
And so we went over there, and then we found some really good stuff. And then one farmer told another farmer, and it just started that way.
Yeah, networking. And after we got to take a commercial break, but after this commercial break, I want to get into your research and your networking and what have you. But we'll be right back. You know, T-shirts are a perfect way to get your brand recognized, whether you're talking about a business, a club, a sports team, your YouTube channel, or whatever. But you may have asked, where can I get quality, affordable shirts on demand? Well, I'm glad you asked. RELICS RADIO uses DetectTees.com for all of our T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and hoodies. That's DetectTees.com. Ken and Mark Guthrie make quality shirts that last, they ship quick, and best of all, they're affordable. So if you need customized apparel, then go to DetectTees.com and be sure and tell them that RELICS Radio sent you. Great guys over at DetectTees.com. They were actually our first sponsor, and they are still our sponsor. They reached out to us real early when we first started this show and wanted to make apparel for us, and we were agreeable to that. And I tell you what, if you need shirts, if you need hoodies, if you need cooling towels, anything in the way of apparel, they can custom make it for you. Go to DetectTees.com. Yeah, I want to get back into your networking, how you find the sites that you find and what have you. How do you go about that again?
So we made up, we make up business cards. We have flyers, and also we bought this very awesome truck, and then we had it completely customized just for the show. And it's a Raptor, and all the stuff that was designed for it came out of Mesa, Arizona. It's a Dick of Desert design, a custom that we put on this truck. And so it looks like a pre-running rally truck is what it looks like. So it was part of the gimmick. So when we ride up and show up, they're like, hey, the booty hunters are here. So it's all about presentation as well. So if we're just out somewhere, this truck attached, it was, we did this from the get-go. We want to draw attention to ourselves. So right. If somebody comes up at a gas station and we're like, oh yeah, we built this truck for the show, and we give them a card. And so we've already created interest that way. So we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money into our metal detecting adventures. So we do it full time. Thank you, Lord, and thank you, Stephanie, that that we were able to do it. So we can spend a lot of our time thinking about, hey, how can we attract a lot of attention? So business cards, we do pay for our own advertising. If you're able to do that, that helps. And of course, word of mouth. And we have a new gimmick that we started, and a new way to attract attention. And hey, is it all right if I sell this, Stephanie? Because
I don't think so.
Plenty of places for people to metal detect. Yeah. So here it is. So
I don't know. I don't know what you're fixing to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
wait a minute. Are you going to give don't give our secrets away. Don't do it.
Well, it is a secret, but there's plenty of places to do this. So how do you attract attention to yourself, and how do you find a place to go metal detect that you're legally allowed to go to? And it's pretty hard. So we figured out that if you go look for old bed and breakfast places. because a lot of people convert old bed and breakfast, old homes into a bed and breakfast. And so they need some advertising as well. So you contact them, tell them what you do, and you know what? I scratch your back, you scratch my back. I'll advertise your bed and breakfast on our site, and then we'll see how this pulls together, and then we'll go out there and see if we can find something. So this is one of the new ones we've come up with, and we did get a really good hit. And in the summertime, we have a national historic site that we're allowed to go to and dig at, and it's on the National Registry, and it'll be a grist mill in Vermont.
That's great.
And so we have the complete run of the entire property. Well,
no, it wasn't Elvis. I think it was where the Jackson 5 first recorded their album there at this grist mill.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's a historic grist mill. It's really cool. It's got a church. It's got several buildings. It's on a river. It's got 5 acres. And he was super stoked for us to come do it. So we're super excited.
That's a great idea.
We have that coming up in the summertime.
Yeah. And, other people have done that as well, where you have individuals or a group of individuals that have purchased an old place and they renovate it, they make a bed and breakfast or what have you out of it. And then it's easy to approach those people. Most of the time, though, when you do that, whatever you find, you're going to have to turn over to the landowner to display in there. But that,
yes.
But we just really want the video rights anyway.
Right. Well, that's
part
as long as we have it on video,
right? And
we kind of get the bragging rights.
And you found it. You have the thrill of digging it out of the ground.
Yeah.
You documented it. And so, what are you going to do with it anyway? If put it in a drawer or a closet or something other. But that is permanent, day after day after day advertisement for you guys, for people that will be on vacation and come through. They may have a bed and breakfast somewhere, or they may have a historic place, and it's just a great way to network.
Airbnb as well, because that's getting popular.
Yeah.
Well,
did you hear what I said about the Airbnbs?
I would coin this the catch and release program. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, Kerry, tell them how we narrowed down. We have a show, and I would say this is going to be, I'm going to just jump forward. This is our best find that we can tell you about. And it was the shipwreck crosses that we ended up finding.
I've seen
and
those.
We do have a show on it. Thank God we got it on video.
Yeah.
But because Mom and Dad were so excited for us, because it takes a long time to find something off a shipwreck. You have to be kind of lucky, or big time scuba divers or something. But so we went on a cruise, and right after the cruise, we decided we were going to take a trip to Florida and go. Of course, I'm not really for the standard coin. I'm looking for the shipwreck treasure.
Right.
I want that box of treasure. Always. That's, of course. So we're going to Shipwreck Coast, they call it.
The Treasure Coast.
Yeah, the Treasure. Yeah, Treasure Coast. Yeah.
And right when we're getting off the ship, the hurricane started coming. And so we called Dad, and he's like, I don't think you should go there. You're going to have to stop in the Gulf. And I was so upset, because I was like, this is my time to find it. I know it is. I'm feeling it. And so go ahead, Kerry, and pick up how we did it. We studied.
Okay, well, yeah, so it's always a process of deduction and elimination. When we got there, and we didn't get to go to the place we wanted to go to, so we have to just reorient all of our thinking and, get over the fact you're not going to the Treasure Coast. So what can we do here? So the plan was this is another thing. So if you get on there and you're trying to do everything legal, because that's the only way you can do it is legally. So at this period, it was 2018, the governor of Florida apparently had signed something that allowed all the businesses and private owners that live on beaches, they just gave them all the beachfront property.
Right. So
where people have been going out there for 30 years to vacation, all of a sudden now, this spot that they're vacationing on is now become a piece of private property. So those type of situations where they're being, if they are being, or maybe that the cops come and remove them or tell them to leave this private property that they've been coming to for 30 years, those things will eventually end up in court and have to work their way out. But now they've got these little signs on the beach telling you, hey, you can go here, you can go here. And so we're like, oh, scratching my head, well, where can I go? And so
because they only allowed you to walk on the water's edge now.
Yeah, so here it is.
That's
so
it.
Here's the water. So you got all the shipwreck claims out there. So you can't really go into the water.
No, you can't.
If there's a shipwreck claim, you can't walk into the water with your metal detector.
Right.
So then the governor gave the beach to the private owners and businesses. So what you really have legally is a little bitty strip where the water laps up on the beach and then runs off in between the water, which is a pretty narrow. It's like as wide as your arms, basically. So that's where you can legally
But then
go.
some metal detectors don't even work in the salt water. As far as when you get to that salt, they have that grindy. So it made it really hard.
So the plan was, hey, all right, so let's find a very expensive hotel, because more than likely a lot of people or go to an expensive hotel, they're not going to be metal detecting. That was plan one. Plan two was you're not allowed to go into the dunes and dig. You can't dig around seagrass, and you can't obviously dig in sea turtle nest. So you're even limited even more. So if you could find where a big giant business or some sort of construction site that's along the beach's edge where they do construction, so they pull permits to do construction, but they take the tailings and they just throw them right back out on the beach.
Yeah.
So Stephanie's like, hey, you know what? All these boxes along this beach, they've all dug in right up to the no-dig line, but they've thrown all the tailings back out on the beach. So let's go through the tailings. So we were down there for like about 7 days, I suppose. And so we're filming our show, and so we have to shoot B-roll footage, like pretty footage is what we call it.
Right.
And of course, then you have to find stuff, and, it's a lot of work. So, of course, not everything makes the final cut. So in our minds, we got like a lot of stuff we had to do to make a 20-minute show. And so we're narrowing it down.
Yeah, and these
something.
Hold on, Kerry. These shows that'll tell you that they go to the beach and they find, 13 rings and 2 cell phones and a drone, and more than likely that is placed there just for their show, because we were there for 7 days, and of course we don't live on the beach, but every day we're going past all these people that have, all this jewelry on. Nobody's losing anything. There's just one ring, a couple rings, and a little thing that we found on the volleyball court, and you can't make a show out of that.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of these shows are placing things, in order to get their show rating up higher. We just try not to do that.
In defense of some of those people that are successful there, they live down there, and they look for weather events that will cause a cut. And what a cut is where it washes the sand out, and you get down to the hard pan, and that's where everything is at. That's where your gold.
You're right.
Yeah,
that's where I was fixing to get to right there. That's what I was.
Yeah, you're right.
That we noticed that after being on the beach for 7 days, you can start to see all the little accretions in the dirt, or where the dirt has not been moved, or it's harder packed or not. I mean, you start to really tune into the land and the layout. But the mere fact that we knew they had been digging into dunes where we're not allowed to go to, they throw the tailings back. There was a hard pack of sand, and you could see the water had run off when it does rain. And we started finding little pieces. So, matter of fact, we were doing it in the daytime, and a lot of people, they come up and they stop and talk to you, and of course you can network at that point. But we said, too many people are stopping us. Let's do it at night. So in that video, you can see we do a lot of night digging, and plus it was cooler. But in the dark, I remember we kept running across these little pieces of something. Right, it's in the dark, and we finally, some of them are so small they're falling out of our sifters. And I remember bending this one piece of metal, and if you're a kid, you know what copper feels like. It felt like a piece of copper, and it bent really easy. And I remember, that's just a piece of trash, and I threw it. Right? Well, okay, that's lesson number one. Don't throw anything.
Right.
But it was,
don't throw anything until you get back to the area.
Yeah, it was
you
the
can
size
see
of
what
my
you're looking
thumbnail,
at.
Right? So we keep going out there a couple days in a row to this particular spot. We started finding these little pieces of metal, and those little pieces of metal led us on this hard packed dirt that apparently washed out of the dunes to the first cross that we found.
Yep.
And then we're like, we were so excited. Let's keep going. And so we found what appears to be some old shipwreck stuff. And, of course, the strategic location that we put ourselves in was, hey, find someplace they've been throwing the tailings out. And also, we noticed, and I was going to say this earlier, if you're looking on a map, because we're trying to figure out where we can legally do this, we noticed that everywhere there's a shipwreck out there in the ocean, they make a national park or a bird reserve where you can't go on there at all. So if you've ever had to do that and look where all those shipwrecks are, look on the beach, because you'll see a big, giant green section of beach on a map indicating, hey, this is a reserve, it's a national park, it's a state park. And I think those are all designed to keep people like metal detectors out of there. Honestly, that's what I think.
It may be. Hey, we need to take another commercial break. I tell you what, 15-minute segments go by really quick, but we'll be right back. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on RELICS RADIO. And as most of you know, I produce the American Digger Relic Roundup show on Monday night with Butch Holcomb and with Jeff Lubert. That's at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And also FeedSpot, a ranking company, put out their top 10 treasure hunting podcast you must follow in 2020, and Relic Roundup was number 3 in that top 10, so that was great. Stephanie, didn't mean to cut you guys off, but we got to pay the bill.
No.
So go ahead and
that's fine.
Oh, let me finish my one thought here.
Okay, go ahead.
Was, at least in Florida, the elimination of the what you might have to go through to increase your chances of finding something, and that's what we did there. And we noticed that, obviously everywhere we noticed there's a shipwreck, you can't go to these beaches. So we planted ourselves strategically between one wreck that was 10 miles down the beach and another one that was about 2 miles out of the beach. And so that increased our chances. And fortunately, thank you, Lord, we found some stuff. Mm-hmm. So we got to film it, and it was great.
And you did. And what is the name of that episode? I've seen that episode where you found the 2 crosses.
Shipwreck finds.
Okay. It's
Shipwreck finds in Florida.
Yeah, it's the Booty Hunters Metal Detecting on YouTube, and you can go in and check that out. Something else that I wanted to bring up tonight, and that is that you guys get into some scary situations every once in a while. I know that at one place that there was a snake that almost came out on y'all, didn't it?
Yes. I hate snakes.
Well, we have poisonous snakes where we are here. You're from Texas, so you know that.
Right.
So we have to really kind of be careful because we have the rattlesnakes and the copperheads, but if a rattlesnake is going to be a lot more threatening to your life.
We got some coral snakes, too.
Yeah, there is coral snakes.
Yeah.
And in some spots
and Kerry was almost...
Go ahead.
Kerry was almost
bit
by
in the
one.
face by a copperhead.
Oh, me.
when he was little, and it licked his forehead. So he's
messed my head up ever since.
So that's the problem. Now we get the rest of the story out of it.
Yeah.
And you had one video, and the way that it came into it, it was you went into a barn, I think it was, but it was dark where you were going in, and the viewer really can't tell what's going on, and there's this rah, 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 and I thought, what in the world, is that? And tell them what it was, what you ran up on.
That was a vulture. Yeah, now that was a vulture in this old, so this place is a pretty big, I think there's 500 or 600 acres on this place. And it was a really old barn, and we're metal detecting all around this thing. And hey, let's go in the barn. We're not in here, so we open up the door, and there wasn't just one in there. We only filmed the one. There was 3 of them in there, and those things went berserk.
I think you cut out though. They were baby vultures.
Yeah, baby vultures.
Right. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. And when they saw us, they were still. So I was going to get the camera up there. And I got that camera up there, and they were huddled, but they went nuts. And they bumped into everything, and then we were scared that it was hilarious. It was so much funnier than I could even put together on the video. That it was just. I think I peed a little too. It was that funny. So, is that too much on the radio? Right?
Oh no, that's fine.
No, it was something else.
It really was.
Did you actually
go ahead?
Have you seen the Hollywood Hideout?
No, I hadn't seen it. No.
Good. I'm glad I get to tell you.
Okay.
We got to go. There was so it's. I know your viewers, I don't know where they're from, all over the world. So we have what's called Possum Kingdom here, a lake.
Hey, I've fished at Possum Kingdom before with my dad. Yeah,
there you go.
We used to go there quite a bit.
Well, so it's a pretty old lake and very deep. Had Indians and stuff that would go up in the rocks and stuff when it was just a creek or river. So. Anyways, Jimmy Stewart built him a little house out there, a little lake house, and I won't tell you everything because we go into details, but we got to go through his house, his little lake house, and then he liked it so much that they allowed him to build a house there. So he would fly in Bob Hope. Yeah. Well, they eventually made a kind of a resort for their friends, and they had monkeys, they had elephants, they had zebras, and they all kept it was like this private little end across from Sandy Beach, if anybody knows where that is. And they said you could hear those elephants all throughout the thing, but all throughout the area. But
so in that video, we incorporate
Taylor.
Yeah. So that video is all about incorporating that history in that dig. And so that's part of the format is find some history and incorporate it into the dig and make it interesting because, as you said before, Texas is so huge and everything is so far and few between, we got to film what's under our feet.
Right.
We got to dig what's under our feet and film it. So we got to throw in some history with it and make it super as interesting as we can because we find what we find. So.
Yeah. And you guys
going through Jimmy Stewart's house is pretty interesting.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job of that. I mean, blending everything that you blend in with it, and camera angles, and just the things that you do. You need to change scenes every so many seconds to keep interest. I mean, there's a whole philosophy about editing and everything, and you guys are really, really doing a good job. And I know
thank you.
I know that people, whenever when they come and watch your videos, are going to agree with that. Even though you're not finding Spanish gold and Maximilian's mine and all that stuff, or his treasure. One day
we will.
One day you may do it.
I just want people to enjoy, like you just getting to go to a little vacation and enjoy it. And then if they come away with learning something, even better.
Yeah.
But when we were making that Tornado Alley, this last show we did, it was on a family farm, which I don't really say that in the video. A lot of the cuts, I need to lose like 50 pounds. And if I don't lose weight, I'm not putting myself out there. So some of the funny stuff that happened in that show, it was really funny stuff, and I couldn't put it in there because I look like crap. So I'm not doing that to myself.
Well, nobody likes to see themselves on video. I mean, you're your own worst critic, and so.
It's horrible.
Let me ask you this: out of all of the, and I know Texas, I know that you guys hunt some really isolated and really out of the way spots because Texas is so rural and it's so open. Have you guys ever had any paranormal experiences while you were hunting?
Yes.
Go.
That's straight up, yes, sir.
Well, tell us about it.
You want me to start it, Kerry?
Well,
I'll
start
guy
it. You can finish it. How about that?
Okay, do it.
So, well, I would say the first time, and that is a great question. I'm about all the little detectors out there. They're always around old houses and old places. And how many of your listeners have had a paranormal activity occur while they were out metal detecting? And the first time that we ran into something was at Fort McCavick. And we were out there filming, and it was one of our second show. And
right. It's going to be the river behind the Army fort.
Yeah. And so we don't film this, though, but I do remember she was in there. I'm shooting some B-roll footage of filler material for the show. And she was inside one of those old buildings, and I think it was the post office maybe. And she heard someone walking around in there. And there's nobody in there. There wasn't anybody at the fort except us and the curators, which, by the way, they were super nice at Fort McCavick, and they took us into every building. And they opened their doors for us, and thank you. McCavick is an awesome place. So they invited us in there and took us all over. She's wandering around this building by herself. There's someone walking around in there. And when I went in there, she asked, "Were you?" I wasn't in there. I kept telling her, "No, I was not here." And then when I got in there, something was picking up pebbles off the floor and throwing them in this old building from one side of the room to the other.
And I can hear them talking, too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
That was pretty freaky. But now, here's the other one.
Then when I was... wait, Kerry. Then when I was in the bathroom, I walked in the bathroom and I thought, the AC was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, "We don't have AC in the bathroom." And I was like, well, that is exactly why when I was in the bathroom,
I forgot about that.
The stall door opened and it just opened up, and this cool breeze hit me, and I was like, it gave me chills. So then I walked out and said, then I was testing the door. I couldn't get it to move when I was moving it back and forth. And I was like, well, that was weird. And then he said, "No, we don't have AC." And I said, "Okay, you have ghosts."
I got
cold. Yeah, we know that.
I got cold for some reason.
So here's the next one.
He said, "Yeah, we know it."
So it's like a year later, we go out to this property, and we're building a rock bridge out in front of her house, and so we needed these rocks that already have green mold on them and stuff like that, deep texture. And so we got invited out to this piece of property way out in the middle of nowhere to go dig. And it's like 105 degrees this day. We pull up on this property, and there's no wind blowing whatsoever. And we pull in there with the Raptor and the trailer, and we're not going there to metal detect, not yet. We're just going there to dig these rocks up. And the big giant barn doors on this old barn, they're just fully opening and fully closing, fully opening and fully closing. And then I remember Stephanie said, "Hey, the wind's not blowing." And I'm like, "Oh."
Well, I couldn't stand the noise.
Yeah, I turned right.
Well, so
right.
I thought
there's no wind blowing.
I thought.
So
I walked over there to close the door. And the minute I got right there to the door, I got the chills. and there was no wind blowing. So I thought, okay, this is so creepy. It had a wooden floor, very creepy. So I thought, I'm not going to walk inside. I'm feeling something weird. So I closed the door, and I took this metal bar that was on the ground, and I'm pretty industrial with my hands and stuff. So I put that metal bar in there where I thought that it was really sturdy in between the two locks, and I turned around and walked off. And I'm looking at Kerry, and I got halfway back.
Now, while she's walking away, I saw that big metal bar get pulled out of there, fall on the ground, and then the doors go to open and closing. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not going to tell her that happened. And so,
I could hear it.
We head up into the woods, and I'm telling you, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you've never had this happen to you, maybe one day something will happen to you. But we go up in the woods to go digging. It's pretty creepy. We're going in there to dig rock, and I saw 4 dudes in white standing there just looking at us. Now, she didn't see him, but I could see him as plain as day. And I said, there's a dude looking at me from there, and there. And so it just gives me the creeps just thinking about it right now. But I said, hey, come here a minute.
Well, I knew he was scared because he said, we got to go. We can't stay here. They're just looking at me.
Well, and so, but we needed this rock. So, you know what we did? We said a prayer to the Lord right there. And then immediately the whole air cleared and everything was good. And so we finished our rock project, dug up all the rock, and then months and months later, we get invited to that property to go metal detecting. And that's where you can pick up what happened there, Stephanie.
Okay.
Hold on. Before you do that, I'm going to open up the phone lines. It's 270-495-0315. I put it in the chat. Somebody else can put it in if you want to, but it's 270-495-0315. Call in if you want to talk to Kerry or Stephanie from the Booty Hunters Metal Detecting. Okay, go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay. All right. So this is going to be our best find. I'm going to announce it on your show because we haven't actually told it yet because we were waiting on all the scientific evidence to come in.
Okay.
So, all right. So this guy, evidently, he works for my dad, and he's worked for him for about, 15 years or 20 years. So he's like his left-hand man, and I love him. So he's like family. So he said, Stephanie, you go out there anytime you want to. He said, here's the gate code, and I don't mind if y'all go. I think the land might have something buried on it because I got it from the bank, and they were very nonchalant about the way they told me, but it could be that there was a lot of drugs going on, and he could be that he got put in jail. So he said, there might be something buried on there. So, of course, I'm like, oh, heck yes. We got gold, Kerry. Let's go. we need to go get the treasure. So here we go out there, and already knowing, and I said, maybe that's what those guys were about. It was so creepy when we were there. I had a feeling that it was like, some satanic stuff had gone on when I went up there in the rocks. So anyway, so I went back there, and I said, okay, I'm going to go in the barn. That scared me the first time. So I walked in the barn without Kerry knowing, and I started saying a prayer. I said, okay, if you can hear me, you've already passed away, and you're no longer here. So if you've buried something on the property, I could really use it. Our show could use it. The man that owns this property has a bunch of kids. We all could benefit from it, but I don't want anything negative coming home with us because we've had that happen before. So I said, I totally 100% believe in God, so I have God with me. I don't want you coming home with me, but if you'd like to show me where it is, I would be very grateful. And I wrapped it up that way, and I turned around and walked out, and Kerry passes me, and he's going to the barn, and I didn't say anything to him. I went and got the snake boots on and grabbed my metal detector, and then Kerry, I hear him yelling at me, look at this rock I found. So he comes running up to me, and he shows me this cool see-through rock that he found, and it's got a little bit of the hard rock on the back of it. And I was like, okay. So I put it in the backpack, and so we're arguing about where a drug dealer or somebody that's going to bury something significant, where they would bury it on the property. and it's got all these odd dog pens that were along this fence line. And so I'm arguing with Kerry, and Kerry's saying I would bury it in the field where I could see it. And I said I would bury it close to the dog pen, and I'm going to do it. I'm the one with the metal detector. I'm doing it where I wanted to do it first. And he started laughing. So he's like, whatever, okay. And
well, you won the argument.
Right. I set the metal detector down. The first swing I did, we get a hit. Kerry puts the shovel in the dirt. And up comes the size of the palm of our hand of a see-through, looks like jade rock. And it came a flood. And we sat there for 3 hours digging up whatever was buried. It was only a foot deep, and it was all together, and it was covered with tape that was aged tape, and it was 100 pounds of this stuff. So to make a long story short, we could not figure out what we had. We went straight to Dad and said, what do we have? And Dad was so excited, and he created us a sifter, and we went back the next day and we sifted through and got all of it. And so it took Kerry and I studying on the computer
you got to tell them what happened to the metal detector. So, you
want me to say that? So we walked up. So the homeowner, the landowner, wanted to show us up top where I felt like it opened up to where it was a round area, like a seance area. So he wanted to show us up there.
White.
Right. And so we're up there and we're looking around, and the metal detector is doing fine. And by the way, I 100% back Garrett. That's all we use is Garrett metal detectors. Love them. And as we're coming down, right where Kerry saw those men, the metal detector started messing up, and it started grinding and like, and we had brand new batteries in it. And it just cut off, and we have not been able to make it work since. So we're going to have to take it into Garrett and say, I think some paranormal stuff has affected the metal detector.
Yeah, so, that is so weird because that metal detector
I don't think it was Gary.
Worked perfectly.
Yeah, for 3 years. Nothing's happened. I think Gary Drayden or somebody had run into something, and it affected their metal detector and their cameras. So they said the same thing. So it validated what we were going through for us.
Yeah, there was another show that something like that happened on, and they hit on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, so we have discovered, and then everything is still in the works, but what appears to be you want to tell Kerry? You want me to announce it?
I can say it.
Do it.
Okay, well, after we brought all this rock home and they're scratching our heads, and we spend weeks and weeks and weeks trying to figure out what it is, because we're thinking it might be semi-precious stones, something like that. And we finally figure out, she yelled at me from the room, and she said, hey, I think this is impactites. And so we get to study in impactites, which is glass that's formed after a meteorite hits. And so if it hits different types of soils, they might call it like Libya. In Libya, the Libyan glass, it was created by a meteor strike, and they call it Libyan glass. And you got tektite, moldavite, which might be a different soil type. But in our case, it's completely unusual because it appears that this meteorite, that's what we heard from the very beginning, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it appears a meteorite hit a solid quartz, a solid bedrock of quartz, and turned it into an impactite. So that, after studying for months and months and months, hasn't really been seen. And so it's been an up and down emotions of trying to figure out what this stuff is. And I remember when she yelled at me, she said, hey, I think it's impactites. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I think you're right. So I ran back out to the trailer. And I remember when she first had laid that metal detector down, it did make a beep. And I remember when we were digging all this rock of them, your head's swirling and you're trying to figure out what it is. And I remember picking up this heavy, weighty thing. And I'm like, okay, that feels like a meteorite, but you know what? This rock looks way more interesting. So I threw it back in the ground because I knew we were going to come back and sift all the small stuff out. And so weeks later, when we finally figured out this might be impactites, I run out to the truck trailer and I dig in the box and I find that meteorite or alleged meteorite. And I bring it inside and I wash it off and I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks like a meteorite. This stuff does look like impactites. And so,
immediately we go and we get a microscope so we could figure out what it looks like really, really zoomed in. So
what
we ended up doing that.
The meteor or alleged meteorite, it has quartz embedded in it. And then through the microscope, I found small micrometeoroid particles embedded in what we're going to call it glass, but it's really a pure form of silica. So where beach sand is a mixture of all kinds of rocks, and if a meteorite impacted on that, it would be an impactite, but it's not going to be pure glass. It's going to be mixed together with all kinds of rock, morphed into glass. But apparently this meteorite hit just a solid bed of quartz. So it's a pure form of glass. And we would call that like quartz. And so in order to have an event that would melt that, it would be like 4,800 degrees. So it's a huge event.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We ended up taking it to TCU, which is where everybody told us to go to the meteorite place. And accidentally, he was my sister's professor. So he didn't even believe what we had when we told him, and he was antsy about meeting us. So he met us at our truck because he said, I don't want to have an issue if I tell you it's not something that you guys get mad and do something. So we're standing out at our truck, and he says, well, it appears that it could be like slag. I'm not for sure. He's scratching his head. So then he gets all of his equipment out, and he starts looking, and he says, well, he's scratching it, and he says it's harder than glass. I don't know what this is. I've never seen this before. And he said, if it's what you guys are saying it is, nothing like that has ever been found. So there's nothing to compare it to. So we were like, what do we do? And he said, you're going to have to find an impact crater specialist, which is what we need to find. If anybody knows somebody, we need one because we don't know where to find one. Other than
let me tell you something else that's interesting with this particular find. The original hole that we found it in, it didn't impact on that spot. Somebody took all this. If you remember the story, that she went in there and prayed in that barn, and I'd walked past her. Well, I was walking up to the barn to look at the water drip edge to see what might have, been revealed in the dirt by the water dripping off the barn, and I found that one cool rock. And I walked it over to her, and I said, wow, that's a cool rock sticking in the booty hole, the backpack. And then we found more of that rock. So somebody apparently had moved all of that material and they buried it in that hole. So I went into the barn, and I found where they originally had all this glass, this quartz in the barn. So it didn't impact on that site. So I after figuring out this could be an impactite, I look on the web, and I get on Google Earth, and I drew, and the stuff that came out of there, we got ammonite, these clams. I don't want to skew this name, but the Neva clam. There was mud. There was mud that was turned to glass. So we got stuff from an ocean. Then with petrified wood with crystals in it. And of course, all this quartz that's turned to glass. All of this stuff is together, and I look on, I got a blue outlet, and all this came from the Cretaceous period. So whatever hit during the Cretaceous period, which would have been, basically 65 million years ago. So after studying impact sites, I'm like, the only one I could think of was the one that hit off of the Yucatan Peninsula. So I drew a line on Google Earth from the Yucatan Peninsula straight up to that property line that we were at. So it is conceivable, but it has to be professionally, some of the professional credentials is going to have to look at it to prove this. But it looks like that meteor that hit the Yucatan Peninsula, it could have had a part of it that just kept traveling north and landed up in that community that we were at. And after I had drawn that line, I found what appears to be 2 brand new impact sites, but I have to prove it.
Yeah.
And the sad thing
like
is,
a mile wide.
Yeah, this impact site's a mile wide, and if you were in it, you wouldn't even know you were in it. And
you'd be
all the
consumed.
elevations. Yeah, if you look at the elevations, if you're standing down in this mile wide crater, there are some hills in it, and so on. But if I took, hey, I think we're trying to meet here, we got impact. Where did this guy on this board, whoever it was that buried this in this hole, where'd they get it?
Right.
And the sad thing is,
all right. Well, Kerry,
that
I don't mean to cut you short, but we're going to run out of time here. So tell them what your favorite. Tell them what your favorite show is, honey.
My favorite show
before. Yes, he asked us a while ago. I wanted you to tell him.
My favorite show.
We talked about it earlier.
Episode. I like the tornado episode.
You do? Okay, now wait a minute.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the digging with dinosaurs, and you were going to tell about that one. Because I don't know that you saw that one, but we actually got to find, we actually got to go in a part of the river that nobody really goes in.
Oh,
right up next to Dinosaur Valley. And go, tell it.
Yeah, Dr. Carl Bott. So, yeah, we were doing an episode in Dinosaur Valley up in Glen Rose, Texas, and there's a lot of old places out there. We've been out there a few times, and we're trying to, like I say, we incorporate local history into our dig. And we said, well, let's go to the Creation Museum that's outside of Dinosaur Valley. And I walk in there, and lo and behold, I see this old man walking, and I'm like, I know that guy. That's Dr. Carl Baugh. I remember reading this guy's book when I was 14 years old, and was so impressed by his work. And so he was with 2 people, and I walked up and I introduced myself, and I'm like, and this guy's like an archaeologist, and, he is a true rock star, right? And I shook his hand, introduced myself, and he really took a liking and shine to us, and we told him what we were there for, and he invited us into his hyperbaric biosphere chamber. And he said, no one's ever filmed it?
He said, okay, I tell you what. He said, y'all come here. I like you. I really like you. He said, I'm going to allow y'all to do something that I haven't let anybody do yet. And Kerry, I was like, and then he walked off. He said, I'm going to go get my scientist that's up here from New York or somewhere. And he said, we're going to open this thing up and let y'all come in. Kerry was like, I was like, now who is this? What? Who is this guy? So
yeah, I'm like, I just saw a rock star, in my opinion, for me.
And Stephanie, Stephanie didn't know him from Joe Blow, did she?
I had no clue. No. I couldn't even understand what he was saying. It was that far over my head. So I just stood and smiled, and then I just asked Kerry after we got in the car, okay, you're going to have to re-explain to me so I can create the show, because it was like, and even on the show I make fun of myself because it was just like, it just went, Kerry turned into Sheldon off The Big Bang, and he just turned into this nerd, and he just started talking, and I was like, where did that come from? That is hilarious. So
it made a great show. It made a great show.
He let us inside this biosphere thing, so it was really cool.
Yeah. Before we get out of time tonight or anything, back to the find that you're investigating and everything. You guys are going to do a show on this as you kind of weed out and get all your research and everything done, correct?
Yes.
So that's going to be.
Yeah, but we want to make sure. We want to make sure that we get all the information back before I start creating it. So it could be, it could be a year. Yeah. We may have to drive to NASA and show them what we have and say, okay, help us.
Yeah,
that's what one person told us to do.
It could take a year to get it together. So either we have something or we're going to have a show on something that's nothing. You know, it's still something to get behind. The rock is extremely cool. I need to send you some pictures of it.
Yep.
And I should have sent you some pictures of it.
Yeah, we will,
so you
actually.
could see it, how incredible this stuff is.
What you need to do is post some of those pictures on the Relics Radio Facebook group page, because all these people that are listening, they'll be able to see it there as well. You need some kind of spectro analysis on that, you know.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm at. So I sent it off, and then I didn't realize that they weren't going to do a spectrometer on it, or, you know, like they weren't going to check the gases in it and look at the ratios of metal. But what I do believe we do have, just on visual inspection and the fact that that there's so much evidence where they both traded, meteorite particles inside of quartz and the quartz inside the meteorite because it impacted that hard. I don't even know where I was going with that. Like I said, it makes your head swim because you're trying to wrap your head around it. And what I really need is a professional that I lay it all out, because all the rocks together and the stuff from the Cretaceous period, all of it together tells a story.
Right.
But if you just take
we did find
you don't get a story.
Right.
Kerry, we did find what Kerry calls the Holy Grail, and it has what appears that it has the meteorite that struck the outside of the quartz on the top of that quartz. It's black. It's magnetized everything. Then you have the quartz. Then you have that quartz layer, and then you have the glass layer all together in one piece. So it's super awesome.
I can take that rock, and it's magnetic, and then I test it on my metal detector, and I test iron, and I test nickel. And, one other thing I wanted to mention was, and that's where I was going with that, is that we're finding a lot of olivine. So olivine would have been associated with a stony nickel iron meteorite. And and this thing impacted so hard, it just threw olivine all over the place. So we'll just leave it at that, and we'll let the experts figure it out, but hoping it's something.
Oh, man, I'm looking forward to seeing whenever you finally get all that together. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Each show that we have, it's like God's thrown different little pieces in for us, because in our river finds, when we were in the river, it was like nobody had been in this river, and we were finding petrified dinosaur poop all over the place. We found a dinosaur egg. I'm not going to tell you what kind.
Well,
I'll watch the show and figure that out. Kerry will tell you what kind.
You blew it, Kerry. Going to make you watch the show there.
Fishing going, honey.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed it so much. We came home and we incorporated some of those pieces into our mailbox that we're creating. So we have dinosaur poop in our mailbox now.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's you guys.
So
you've got
has something different. So it's just that's what we're trying to do is leave you with a little bit of something that you find every day, like a horseshoe. We know that everybody finds horseshoes. But do you know the history of the horseshoe? It's really kind of interesting. I'm not going to tell you. I have it on one of the shows.
You do, and I incorporate in my videos a thing that I call history clip, and I did one on the horseshoe, the same thing that you did, and it is.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I take those little mundane finds like that too, to try and make it more interesting, and do a little short. Minute and a half history clip on them, and I saw your clip on that, and it was well done. Better than mine.
Did I hit it right?
Yeah, you got it right. You sure did. But go and watch their videos. I tell you, real quick. Let me ask you, if you two guys could hunt anywhere that you wanted to in the world, where would you pick?
Well, I wasn't expecting that question.
I know. I got to throw a curve.
Yeah. I'm going to Castle.
Where would I go? Oh, legal or not legal?
Well, I mean, if they made it legal, if you could just pick a spot, and then they would say, okay, Kerry and Stephanie, we're going to open this place up just for you to go and metal detect for one day. Where would you go? Anywhere. Nothing's off limits.
Oh, I would find some castle in France or in England, and I would go outside of those.
Okay. What about you, Stephanie?
That's what I would really
Castles.
like to do.
Oh, hands down. That's where, I would like to go out to Oak Island and be digging out there. When he's showing them something on the shows, I'm like, Gary, you're straight. You're standing around. Get to digging.
I know.
Get to digging. You're wasting time. What are you doing?
I've said the same thing, and they're digging hole after hole after hole with big machinery and everything. I think if they had 25 or 30 metal detectors to that island is not that big.
Yeah.
And just scour that place.
We'll come stay on the, we'll come stay on the island. Yeah. We'll just stay there. We could go there and stay there. We'll just do all of it, all for them free.
Yeah.
Just let us video it.
Oh, I would too. Hey, we got a call that came in. Tim Henderson, what's going on tonight, Tim?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Going good.
Hello,
Tim. Hey, Tim.
Interesting stories. Hey, so those little rocks you found that were in the barn and in the field, was that on the drug dealer's property?
Yes, it was.
Did y'all try putting a piece of it in a pipe and seeing if you could smoke it?
No. Well, that's the first thing we thought when we found. Yeah, that is the first thing.
Did Ohio Relic?
I told Terry to lick it.
Did Ohio Relic Hunter put you up to that?
No, nobody else
Let's
was
see how you
calling and
feel
go
in
for
an
that
hour.
one, so I had to.
Yeah, that is funny,
I was thinking drug dealer property. They found a bunch of buried rocks, and then they found some of the same rocks in the barn. And okay, what kind of stuff were they cooking there?
Well,
that's what we thought. But you can see.
23 years. She said I worked with the sheriff for 23 years. It's 27 years. And so I told her when we were out there, I said, no, this is not crack. It's not drugs. And she said, why don't you lick it? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to lick it anyway. No, these are actual.
Yeah, you done been licked by a copperhead.
Yes.
Well, you guys know I'm a dealer. I was looking at the fine print on Garrett's warranty program, and I think it says in there that they do not warranty against paranormal abuse.
Does it really?
So
Does
you
it
might be in trouble there.
That's funny. Because we were going to go to the Garrett show, and I said we need another metal detector because our big one is too much. We need to get it fixed. So Garrett is so great.
Well, I'm sure listeners know. I'm sure they've heard it all. So you just call up Rusty and tell him some ghosts tore up your detector.
Yeah, we talked to Rusty,
and we will.
Yeah. Actually, Rusty, he did repair one of our metal detectors that went. It was an AT Gold that just went crazy. We brought it over there, and Rusty took care of us. And great people. And we're using Garrett products because we've always had it in our family, and we had like Garrett Gold Dredge and all kinds of stuff. So just like a family thing. And also, since they're located in Texas, if we do need help, we can go right over there, and they're super friendly. And but to tell you the equipment we use, because we haven't told the listeners, we use 2 AT Golds, an AT Max, and an ATX. So with the deep secret coil on it, so we can.
And we actually have a video. We have a video out there you can find, and we don't go over our shovels in the truck or any of that, but we go over all of our video equipment that we use and our the digging stuff. So you can check that out because it's a lot of equipment, a lot of drones, a lot of cameras.
Yeah.
GoPro, stuff like that.
Before we close the show, give everybody out your YouTube channel, your Facebook, and by the way, guys, I've got all of this in the description of this show, and so, but I'll let them tell you as well. Stephanie, where can we go to see the Booty Hunters metal detecting?
It is under the bootyhuntersmetaldetecting.com, and under both YouTube and Facebook, and our own. Is that right, Kerry?
The bootyhunters.com is your website.
Okay.
And then you got Booty Hunters Metal Detecting Facebook. And, of course, on YouTube, you can look us up by the Booty Hunters Metal Detecting.
Right.
And that'll pull us up.
Somebody.
And it's under. You got to put the metal detection in there. Your wife may say, "What the heck are you looking up there, boy?"
Yeah, I seen somebody in the chat say, "Don't Google the booty hunters."
I didn't realize that was even going to be a problem until we had already printed up cards and all that, and then I didn't even know that was even going to be a problem because I've always associated booty with pirate booty.
Right.
And then in today's
these young kids don't know that.
Else.
Yeah,
I
was thinking my wife, she goes bargain shopping and she gets these Amazon returns and they turn around and sell this stuff on eBay and they're making a killing. And she gave me a badge the other day and I was trying to think, what am I going to do with it? It says it's like a police badge and it says booty inspector.
I love it.
I need to send that to y'all.
There you go. We're going to start making some T-shirts and stuff because it's really funny. You know, one of my favorite shows of the part that I did was in the creek, and we ended up. Which show was that, Kerry? Where we found? Okay, it's River finds metal detecting in Dinosaur Valley, and I can't tell y'all. We got to go stay at the fire chief's place, and they had a miniature animal farm, and on that farm, we got to go in this chicken coop it has chandeliers in the coop. It has couches where you go in and you hold these chickens. Unbelievable. Yeah. But this fire chief started an RV park right at the edge of Dinosaur Valley, and it's called Dinosaur Valley RV Park. And it's fixing to open like next month, I guess, and we've become really good friends with them. And they actually found dinosaur tracks right in front of his property. So if you stay there at the park, you can go right to the creek and find the tracks are right there. So good for them. But we're fixing to go as soon as we finish this, like tomorrow, we're fixing to start. The property next door he bought. And it's got like 4 barns on it and then a whole nother section of river. And so we're fixing to do that starting tomorrow. So excited about that. But we ended up finding a badge. And I loved how that part came together when he's in the creek. And I put Dad always liked the old Westerns. So I love to incorporate, Clint Eastwood music and all that into the shows as well. So,
and that's another thing too. I like to say the music that we use. It might take me 8 hours to find some decent music, and that's why I appreciated the bumper music you put on there because it's catchy, it sounds great, and I can listen to it over and over and over again. So trying to find that content takes hours and days on end. So I usually throw her one piece of music as a bone to play with as she edits, and then I keep looking for more and more. And we purchase all of our own music, so that we're not infringing on a copyright.
Right.
So it's another one of those things.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's been a real blast. We're out of time here tonight. Thanks for
I could go another hour.
I know it, and they would like for you to go another hour. Thanks for the call, Tim.
Love it.
I will probably talk to you tomorrow or the next day or something other, okay?
Nice talking to you, Tim.
Thanks for the good show.
Okay, thank you.
Too.
Bye, Tim. Thank you.
And you guys hang on the line because we'll say our goodbyes afterwards. But you've been great guests. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank
you. Interesting show. And
I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Hey, so we're off right now, right? So can I tell you something, or do you have to get back on the show?
No, we're on the show. You're live right now. Still.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it cut off at 8:30.
No. It cuts off.
On.
It cuts off whenever I cut it off. So let me cut it off, and then I'll get back on the line because everybody's wondering now what you're going to tell me off the air.
You want me to tell them real quick?
If it's okay. Yeah.
I'll do it real quick. Okay, so this well, I don't know what my parents are probably cringing right now. What's she going to say? But the Tornado Alley one that we did was, I didn't get to say it, but it was on a family farm. And the house that we ended up passing, I didn't show it because I didn't want to tell it. I looked bad in the show, so it ended up on the.
It didn't make the final cut.
It did not. But the funny story is that my great aunt and uncle lived in this house, and they were like in their late 80s. And their son called, and he said, "Mom, she slept upstairs. He said, go downstairs right now. The tornado is headed right for you." And so she was like, "Oh goodness." So she goes downstairs. She sleeps naked, so she did not bother to put any clothes on. But she gets downstairs and finds her husband, and they get in the bathroom, and he gives her a hard hat. So she's naked in the bathtub with a hard hat. He's sitting on the toilet, putting his boots on, and the tornado hit. And it took all of their upstairs gone, and the bedroom, the door to the bathroom, the ceiling came off, and their bedroom was gone. So the only part that was existing was the little bitty bathroom they sat in, and then the other side of the wall, which was the kitchen. Everything that she owned was strewn out over their property for miles.
We were out there metal detecting. We found some of those items.
And then
so she walked out to the open with no clothes on but a hard hat. And so when the neighbor comes up, he's like, "Oh, good gracious, we gotta get you some clothes." And so they had to drive their truck through all this turmoil and find her some clothes. They got her wet clothes on her right before the news crews came up, and Finley was like videoing her. So it was a really cute story, but I didn't look good telling it, so it didn't get on there.
It is a great story, and if I was one of the newscasters, whenever I came up, if I saw her there naked with a hard hat on, I would say what Tim did. We're not in Kansas anymore.
Here's the story. It's not the tornado.
That's right. Yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. But you guys have been great. Hang on the line. Let me close the show out, and we'll say our goodbyes off the air. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody, appreciate you being on the show tonight and joining it. Especially want to thank Kerry and Stephanie for such a good show. I mean, they're just wonderful people to talk with. I could talk with them for half the night here. Go check their videos out. I guarantee you that you're going to love them. It's the Booty Hunters Metal Detecting on YouTube. Check it out. And come back here next Thursday night right here on RELICS Radio. We got another great guest out of Florida. We've got Chris O'Connell, who is the Florida scuba hunter. He's going to have some interesting stuff this next Thursday. So we'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on RELICS Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker, or you can catch the archive show at RELICS Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and many other podcast outlets. RELICS Radio is also syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure and follow us so you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our RELICS Radio Facebook group page or Adventures in History on Facebook. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to relicsradio@outlook.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope that you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.